There you go. Uh-oh. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Okay, that's not working either. So I was trying to be fancy by using my phone to be able to actually show you something. So thank you for the person that said that there's no audio. And for some reason, my laptop isn't working, so I can't really see myself on Amazon Live. But you know what? It is what it is. The show must be able to go on. So if you are watching me on Amazon Live, I'm going to be looking at you through my tablet to be able to answer any questions that you have. But either way, I was creating the live just to be able to talk about creating a podcast itself, what you should be thinking about if you're going to go into podcasting, and really thinking about the equipment that you need. And you don't need a lot of money to spend on the equipment for you to be able to have quality podcasts. So I'm going to show you the higher end and also some of the lower end things that you can specifically use. But before we actually get started, what I wanted to do also is really to share with you some of the things that you want to think about if you are going to start creating your own podcast. The first is really, why are you creating the podcast for? They've had many instances where people come up to me and say, well, I want to start a podcast so that I can talk family stories between my brother and I. And I think that that's great. The question really is, are you creating the podcast to self-indulge in a conversation just between you and the other person and hoping that others are going to be in that kind of voyeuristic environment that want to eavesdrop into that conversation, which is one type of podcast? Or is it an educational podcast where you're trying to give some information that is going to be very helpful for someone to learn something? Basically, what I'm saying is that if you're going to start off a podcast, first of all, if you want to do it, just go for it. Do 3 or 4 different sorts of audio clips of what you're trying to say and see how it goes. But as you're kind of experimenting and learning along the way, don't be hard on yourself, because many people who focus and create podcasts all started off with the ums and different filler language that sometimes when you listen back to it, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that's exactly what I sounded. One of the biggest things that throw people off when they are podcasting is the fact that they've not really heard themselves on audio or not really used to hearing their voice. I know that was something that I actually had to get over with the first time I was actually listening to myself, because I'm like, I can't believe this is what I sounded like. And not that I'm critical of myself, but it was just one of those things that you kind of take a step back and you're like, oh, okay. And so one is getting comfortable with your voice. 2 is really thinking about the type of content you want to create. And then the thing that you want to also think about, is there a problem that you're trying to solve, right? And if there is a problem that you're trying to solve, what exactly is it that you're bringing to the table to help solve that problem? So if you're going to start with a podcast, as I said, kind of do 2 or 3 different audios and broadcast it and see how it goes. But what I also think about is going in with it a strategy. Like if you really like it and you do enjoy doing podcasts and being able to share your voice, share your point of view, think about where do you want to take it long term. Once you start getting used to doing the podcast, you want to think about a strategy around, do you bring other guests? How long do you want to do it? From my experience, there's 2 types of podcasts that work really well. Ones that are super educational, that is like either like going into history or like a talk show where you're just kind of listening, and that can go for like an hour and a half. But if you're going to do a solo podcast, which is what I typically do, the most that I would do is like 15 minutes, even less. And the reason for that is because people's attention span is really short nowadays. And so you want to be able to get in there, get to the point, and give quality content. Try to avoid going into a narrative unless the narrative is something that actually is going to help add value to the podcast that you're trying to create. Otherwise, don't waste your time creating fluff. Just get to the point and provide the value that you're trying to provide. Many times, listeners will gravitate towards you because you actually are being directive and to the point, and that's it, because you are valuing their time and they're valuing the fact that the content that you're providing is there for them. So that's the thing that's also important to think about. is your listener. Who's going to listen to this? So I'm going to step away a little bit and share with you some of the equipment that I specifically use. Like I said, you don't have to spend a lot of money. And again, I'm also trying to see myself on Amazon Live, but I can't for some strange reason. So again, hopefully you give me feedback. I heard someone was wonderful enough to be able to tell me there was no audio. Ask away any questions, by the way. That's why I'm here, is to share this information, because I've learned, and I'm the type of person that takes the time to really figure out what I want, and I won't make a big investment. Some people go in there, and if they have money, that's great. I don't have a lot of money to go in there and just buy everything right off the shelf. So I tend to gradually go slow to be able to figure out what do I want. And if you're thinking about putting a podcast, tell me in the comment section, what type of podcast are you thinking about doing? What kind are you looking to create? Do you need any advice? Because I think most times, I wish I had someone to chat with when I was starting out my own podcast. And I started mine, by the way, 10 years ago. It was called the Project Box. And when I started the podcast, I really didn't think anyone was listening to it. It was only until I stopped podcasting that I went back to look at the analytics. And that's another question that I get many times. Like, do I go to anchor.fm to be able to syndicate my podcast? Do I use another indicator? I like Libsyn, because the thing with Anchor, even though you get some money from it, which is not a lot, I think they own your content, which is something to be very careful of when you're using free platforms. Libsyn, it's like $5 a month that you can invest, and it syndicates through Audible, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all the different major platforms. So you get a massive reach for very little money. And if you're able to also get some of the analytics to show where exactly people are listening to. So as I said before, feel free to ask questions. I'm going to go into the actual product itself. And again, I'm going to showcase the Blue Yeti first. And what I was trying to do before with the live itself was to show it with my camera. So I'm going to try one more time. And again, I was trying to be cute by having it all ready. But as you can probably tell, I'm not a very experienced streamer and stuff like that. But again, that's how we all learn. We kind of figure these things out. So hi there, Kayla. I'm glad that you were able to join. And by the way, if you like what you're hearing, I'm going to be podcasts. I'm going to be doing a lot more of these lives. Just hit the follow button to be notified. And if you were notified several times today, again, I've been having technical issues, so I apologize. I was trying to show the coffee machine that I really love, but that's not the point of today. So that being said, let me see if I can actually use the phone to be able to show you the actual equipment that I use. And then this is the other thing that I started using, which is this little toggle microphone itself. And I'll talk about that in a minute, as to being able to do some quality boom mic just on the phone itself. But let's start off with the Yeti first, and I'm going to try with the phone. If that doesn't work, I'm just going to go back into this camera and then just kind of lift the actual Yeti itself. And so that you know, the Yeti is like literally right near my face. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to show it with my camera. Let me see if I'm able to do that now. So please be patient with me. And I'm hoping. All right. Never mind. I'm getting some feedback from this. That's what happens sometimes when you're trying to do these things. So here's the microphone. I'm going to try to move this camera just a little bit back. And I'm going to move my face over here so you can see it. It is on a boom mic. And what I will do, by the way, so that you can see it, is I'm going to use the camera. I'm going to shut this video off, so that way you don't get the echoing that you're hearing. But the reason why I like the Blue Yeti is because, one, it is connected to the USB port, so you can use it on laptops, desktops. It's pretty mobile. It comes with a stand itself. And so if you're hearing me from this part of the side. And one of the biggest mistakes that people do when they are doing podcasting is that they're putting the microphone pretty much like this, where it's like they're speaking to the top of this, and that's not going to be very useful. What you need to do is move it a little bit away so you can hear the difference. So hopefully you can hear the difference in just the tone of the voice itself. Now, with this particular microphone, the reason why I like it is because if you were to do a podcast, and I know we're in pandemic times where you can't really travel much, but if you weren't able to travel, you're able to take your laptop, take this particular Yeti microphone, and you're able to toggle this so that you can have a different sound. I'm gonna have to put my glasses on if I can find it so I can see this a little bit closer. That's what happens when you get older. Anyway, where is this? So I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's this one over here. So I just moved it. So I think you should be able to hear both sides. So here, so you can hear me here, and I think you can hear me here. So you can hear me probably on both sides. And so that allows you to be able to do two-way interviewing. I just moved this back so that you're now hearing me from this top of the side of the microphone. And then also, if you're playing music, it allows you to be able to modify the actual adjustment of where the direction is coming from so that you can be able to listen to it. But the other thing that I really liked about this particular microphone is the fact that if you're on a conference call, let me move this back to the way this is so you can hear me from the back. So if you're on a conference call, and I'm hoping you can hear me from the back, sometimes on Zoom or any other type of conference call that you have, they can see that you muted the mic. But because this has a built-in mic itself, I'm going to put this on. So you can't really hear me saying anything. I just muted it. So people can be on Zoom thinking that your microphone is on when in reality it's not. And then of course you can, this volume button here is for you to be able to attach a headset to the actual microphone itself if you didn't want to attach it to the monitor or anything else. So that's one of the reasons why I like this particular microphone. Now, the other thing also that you should be aware of is that I have this mounted on a microphone boom. And again, I'm going to switch the video so that you're not getting that echoing so that you can take a look at it. And then you can see if you have any questions. So give me 1 second. I'm going to try this one more time. And hopefully, I'm going to be off for 1 second. So I'm hoping you can hear me, so that way you can see the actual microphone itself. And I'm hoping that you're not getting any specific echoes. If you are, please put it in the comments section so that I can get the feedback, as I said before. So as you can see my setup, I have this laptop on this side, and I've been trying to be able to see myself live, but for some reason it isn't working. So the only thing I can rely on is this tablet that tells me that there are 18 people watching, and either way. So what I was sharing with you before, and this is the camera that I specifically use. You can actually attach this to, you can actually attach a DSLR to this actual thing, and maybe I'll do a setup review because it was a DIY type of mobile unit that I've created, and I love it, by the way. I live in a very small space. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So this is the microphone. It is attached to this particular arm here, and all it is, it's clamped onto this particular rotating mobile desk that I created. So I live in a very tight area in the city of New York, well, New York City, that is. And so space is a premium. So for me to be able to do my videos, my recordings, it's important for me to be able to have the ability to be mobile. So this is another item that I think is also important to have. So some people usually use this particular boom mic, if that's what it's called properly, and they attach it to the top part here so that it's pretty much hanging. But I prefer to have it below, primarily because I just don't want it hitting my head. And there's some other ones like the Rode mic that you can use as well. But it's easy to install, so it's not really complicated. As I said before, this particular unit comes with, as you can see, some holes here, that it comes with an actual stand itself. This, I think, cost, let me take a look at what it cost me. It cost like 36 bucks. If you can see on the carousel, it costs like 36 bucks to be able to attach it. So you can attach it to your work desk or anything of that sort to be able to allow you to actually
move this and get it out of the way. So if you don't want to have it near your face, or you want to be able to work, you can work here. Again, you have the monitor there. I have a light attached up here. And as I said before, if you're interested, I'm always happy to kind of go through the entire studio setup that I created. But again, for the purposes of today's discussion, I really wanted to just kind of share with you what you can use to get started when it comes to doing a podcast itself. The other thing also is, if you're probably hearing me, you're hearing me with that little mic, that microphone that I just showed before I actually went over to my phone. And I just simply attached it to the actual phone itself. So I'm going to move back to the camera so you can see me versus just to see this particular thing itself. Hold on a second. And let me go over here, and I'm going to shut off this over here. All right. So now that I'm back, hoping you can hear me from this particular microphone. Sorry, I'm in your face. I'm trying to get comfortable with this chair. So as I was saying before, as it relates to actually creating a podcast, you can start off with your phone. I highly recommend that you get one of these little attachments. So if you have an Android, which I have, or a specific like an iOS phone, you're always able to hear clearly from the actual, I'm just moved it over to the carousel. You can actually hear it clearly because it is designed to really pick up noise. The one thing I do caution you is that if you happen to live in a very noisy, busy area, it will pick up everything. Like I've had many times, because again, where I live, it gets to be really loud. Sometimes it picks up sirens from outside. So being able to do that in your home is easy. So I definitely recommend first start with this. Start with your phone, start with this, do the recordings. There's also lavalier mics or lapel mics that you can use as well that cost like $20. I think I also included that in here. Yeah, I did. $20 mic that you can specifically use to be able to, again, to start doing interviews on your phone. Again, I highly recommend that if you're looking to do the actual podcast, to give it a go and see how it works for you. Now, the thing I would also say is that if it is something that you're really interested in doing, then at some point, perhaps making the investment, maybe not as extensive as I did here, in actually getting a good microphone like this one that I was mentioning before, the Blue Yeti, to be able to actually record and do the recording. Now, there's even more advanced microphones with all these other encoders that you can use. That's a little extreme. Again, if you're going to do that full time and you're going to be making a lot of money off of that, I think that's a great investment. I'm not making a lot of money off of the podcast. I think as someone who's a professor, I like to teach. So that's one of the reasons why I do the podcasting. But now going back into the actual creation of your content, the thing to keep in mind that most people get caught up is you should be posting or creating content once a week. And ideally, one trick that I always share is to do a day where you batch create all your content. And since in my situation, I specifically create content no more than 15 minutes, I pretty much have it all laid out so that I can do 5 or 6 or even 7 in one day, and I just do the recording. Now, the other thing that I'll give you as a trick is that I learned along the way from my mistakes, which was I would do my podcast, then I would write for psychologytoday.com, which I have a column there, and then also write on other blogs. It became overwhelming. And again, you're not making a lot of money because, again, you're trying to build up your brand and all this other stuff. But what I realized, it's better to do a one-to-many. And when I say one-to-many, I mean create your content once and then distribute it through many different platforms. So what I specifically do now that I didn't do before is I record all my stuff on my YouTube channel, which is Career Insights, which is down here below. And what I do is I extract the audio, and then through software, I cut some of the pieces off, which is like, welcome to Career Insights. If this is your first time here, click subscribe now to be notified when new content is available. Well, subscribe does not make sense for someone that's listening to a podcast. So I would actually edit that out, and I already have something pre-recorded, and I would just plop in that would say, subscribe to, I would say, hit the follow button, or subscribe to the podcast or something like that, so that it's specific to the listener. And so it saves me time for having to recreate. And then once I'm done with the audio, then I upload the audio and even all the video to this other app. I can't remember off the top of my head. I should have had that prepared for tonight. What it does is it actually transcribes all your text, and now you have a blog. So you have a video, or if you do scripts, which sometimes I've done, you already have it written. So you've written it out, you are doing it on camera, and then you extract the audio. So again, you're able to create this content from large scale and then drip feed it out. Sometimes I've taken the content and then I cut it out into IGTV or YouTube Shorts. So again, or even TikToks, because I also have TikToks. So it really depends as to how do you maximize the content that you're creating using all these different platforms. Now, the thing I would also say is that each platform attracts different sorts of individuals. So that's why it's really important. And I know I'm going a little bit beyond the podcasting, but I do think it's really important to think about, why are you producing this content? Who is the content for? And what platform do the people that you're looking for them to find you, are they living in? Do they live on Facebook? Do they live on Twitter? Do they live on Instagram or Clubhouse or TikTok? So I'm love experimenting with different sorts of technology. So you'll find me everywhere, but that's because I'm also trying to learn behavioral patterns. So as an industrial psychologist, which is the study of human behavior in the workplace, I like to understand human behavior in different platforms. So that's one of the reasons for me, it's more of an intellectual curiosity. And sometimes it's torturous, because I try to see how you can actually go viral on some of these platforms. And it's really interesting because I've also done some work with AI, but that's neither here or there. For me, it's just making sure that I share with you is going in with a strategy. And one of the strategies that I share with you is thinking of the one-to-many concept. So that way you're not struggling if you're having yourself be known in various different platforms, which require different either lengths of information or not. But going back to the podcast, if none of that is of interest and you only want to do the podcast, then it's important that your sound sounds good, that you're able to communicate the points that you're trying to communicate. And also, the other thing that I will also recommend is, once you start doing your podcasts, you're going to be probably your biggest critic. And it's good to have people around you that will support you and give you good constructive advice. Because many times the content that you share is good, but sometimes the delivery will take some time to mature. So unless you are great at speaking, which no one was born to do, it's going to take some time to get used to removing some of the filler language. My first language isn't English, it's Spanish. So sometimes when I say written, I've heard some people make fun of it because I don't say written, and that's because I don't enunciate some of the words. But I really don't care what other people think. This is how I speak. But what I do care about is making sure that you are not being distracted by me saying, "Hi, I'm Bernardo, and I'm here to talk about podcasting." So that's why it's important to think about, what is the message? How do you compromise the messages that you're sharing? And do you have specific filler language, that will compromise your ability to get your messaging across? So even if you have the best equipment, it's being able to get your messaging across and also be passionate about it. If you do not find yourself loving what you're communicating, it translates through video, it translates through audio. People can tell when you're not in it. So if you do get to a point where you're tired or fatigued in creating stuff, take a break. There's no one forcing you to have you create content. I found this also similar with content creators on TikTok, where they go viral really fast and they feel this need that they're going to let their public down. I'm sorry, but unless you are in the multi-millions and making, no one really cares if you take a break. I mean, so just make sure that you be kind to yourself when you are doing this type of content. So that is what I wanted to share today. I have some time for any questions. I know that there have been a few of you coming in and out. Apologies for the hiccups I've been having with my technology. Like I said before, you kind of learn along the way. And I'm hoping you're finding value in this. So feel free to ask any questions that you may have. As I said before, I typically do these types of lives with other people to be able to interact and interview. And if you're interested in being on my show, you let me know. I'm always happy to have new guests if you're interested in joining it itself. And if you found this information valuable, like I said, click the follow button. Oops, it's over here. Or you can always message me on any platform. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Clubhouse, YouTube, Facebook, Pinterest. I'm all over the place, but it's because I love what I do. And so, like as I said before, let me see if there are any questions. If you have any questions, especially if you're on Amazon Live, feel free to say hello and let me know if there are any questions. And if there are not any questions, I think I'm done for today, and I need to figure out what is going on with my systems. So thank you so much for being able to spend a few minutes or the entire time with me. I really appreciate it. And again, if there's any specific topics that you'd like for me to cover, feel free to reach out on any of the platforms. And also take a look at the items that I listed below. So as I said before, um, if you're able to, or you've been doing podcasting, I do highly recommend the Blue Yeti. There's also different ones that you can purchase that may be helpful for you. You also have the boom arm, or what do you call this? The professional arm that you can put the Yeti on itself. And if that's too much, there's like $15. Actually, I have the Boya Lavalier mic that I've attached to my phone. And I've used that many times when I've done interviews initially, because again, I like to buy small, and then based on how much I'm using it, then I'll make a larger investment. So I put different items on the carousel that are a wide range depending on your budget if you're really interested in doing the podcasting. And the other thing that I put in there, which I don't think it's in here, was this little thing. I love it. It's a phone stand, and phones keep on getting bigger and bigger. So this is wide enough that you can actually just, stretch. It's really stretches really big. And you can be able to move it this way. I've been able to do some products because the neck goes down, it goes up and down. What I like about it is that it has a flat stand. What I do need to do is get a better setup to be able to do these lives on Amazon. But nonetheless, you have some of these types of equipment that I love using because it makes my life easier. So I'm not having to worry about moving the phone or having it unstable. And then the camera that I'm using, it does do 4K. I don't think it does 8K yet, but this is a Logitech camera. I use it for all my videos, and I again love it. At some point, I'm going to make that investment and make the leap into the DSLR. The way I actually created this mobile studio that you're seeing me on, it allows me to be able to easily take off the actual camera to be able to mount a DSLR. And once I buy that, I'll share with you what does that look like and how to be able to have a setup. The other thing also is the syndication that I'm using, or the way I'm syndicating right now, is through my laptop. And one of the things that I really like, and I'm just clicking on the carousel right now, is this USB-C hub where I attach that to my laptop, because laptops nowadays only have like one or two ports. And so this particular hub, again, is like $80, but it's well worth it because you're able to attach a whole host of things. One of the reasons I was having issues before, and I'm hoping you can be able to see me, is I think my Ethernet wasn't working. So I'm actually not using my Wi-Fi, which is another thing to keep in mind, is that when you are doing video, try not to use the Wi-Fi. Try to actually connect and get the long Ethernet cable and attach it to your router. The reason why is that because you don't want any of the interruption when it comes to video. That being said, I have to take a look at what exactly did I do to mess up initially. Initially when I launched the live itself, and then lastly, I also added the little toggle. boom mics that you can buy. The cheapest one I found was like $25. Again, it depends as to if you have a lightning connection. There's the mono one that has the little kitty cat that you can put on top, especially if you're doing recordings outside. So heavily invest in one of these microphones if you're going to be doing recordings. If you decide to take the advice that I shared with you about doing a one-to-many where you do the recording, so video, so you can upload onto YouTube and then extract the audio. Audio is very, very important. Lighting, even though I put a light in here, I'm actually using sunlight. This is sunlight that I'm using. Sometimes I tend to be a little greasy. I usually put makeup on. I didn't put any makeup on today, but usually I use the lighting. And as I shared before, I have another light up here. And so I think, I did have it in here, the tablet stand, which is right there. Any questions from anyone that's watching? So I know we have Kayla. I think we have Ricky. I don't know if there's anybody else that's watching that has any questions. So if you don't, I think that's pretty much it. So I appreciate your time. Have a great day, and I will be seeing you maybe on Friday. I'll try to do this again. As I said before, I tried doing a live earlier today. It just wasn't working out. So if you see things popping up as far as the notifications, I apologize. I'm trying to figure some of these things out, but still follow. Make sure that you click on that follow button so that you can be notified when new content is made available. And as I said before, I am on these other platforms where I do primarily focus on career advancement, helping you find and focus on job strategies. And if you're looking to leave your job and be your own entrepreneur, helping you make that mental shift from being an employee to an entrepreneur. So again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Hope you have a great afternoon, morning, or evening, depending on where you've joined. Take care.